Welcome to LinesToGo installation videos. Today we will be removing and installing fuel lines on a 94 GMC Sierra using LinesToGo part number FL399-F for the front section of lines and FL400D for the rear section of lines. While this particular installation is being performed on a 94 Sierra, this set of lines will also fit the following year, make, and models as shown in your screen now. LinesToGo lines are made using original equipment end forms and fittings that are CNC bent for an easy and precise installation. We have also upgraded to stainless steel braided Teflon hoses for rust protection and to prevent surface fouling. These have an unlimited shelf life and anti-static PTFE liner. This set of LinesToGo lines are made using 304L stainless steel for rust resistance that exceeds OEM standards. Tech tip: disconnect the battery before working on a vehicle to reduce the risk of shorting out the battery on tools or lines. LinesToGo lines are made with a sectional design for easier installation. We also use color-coded unions on our sectioned lines. Just match the colors of the connections. Make sure to depressurize the fuel system before starting the installation. Tools required: 13mm and 15mm sockets and ratchet, 5/16 of an inch, 5/8 of an inch, 3/4 of an inch, 13/16 of an inch, 16mm and 19mm wrenches, flat blade screwdriver, pliers, drain pan, jack and jack stands. The level of difficulty for this installation is considered to be easy. To depressurize the fuel system, locate the fuel pump fuse using your owner's manual and remove it. Start the vehicle and wait for the engine to stall. Make sure to replace the fuse once completed. Start by disconnecting the battery using a 5/16 of an inch wrench. Next, remove the intake air tubes from the air filter housing. Remove the two wing nuts from the air filter housing and remove the housing from the vehicle. Use a 5/8 of an inch wrench to remove the two threaded fittings from the rear of the throttle body. Underneath the vehicle, use a 13mm socket to remove the nut at the driver's side top of the transmission bell housing. Reposition the bracket on the stud and then use a 15mm socket to remove the bolt that secures the fuel line bracket. Next, using a 13/16 and a 5/8 of an inch wrench, disconnect the feed line in front of the fuel filter. Next, use a 3/4 of an inch wrench and a 5/8 of an inch wrench to disconnect the return line above the fuel filter. Remove the lines from the plastic bracket in front of the fuel filter. Remove the front set of fuel lines from the vehicle. To install the front set of LinesToGo fuel lines labeled FL399-F, start by installing the stainless steel braided hoses onto the lines that attach to the engine labeled 313A and 375A, noting the LinesToGo color-coded connections. Tighten both fittings using a 16mm and a 19mm wrench. With the new lines positioned beside the old lines, remove the plastic and metal clips from the old lines and install them onto the new LinesToGo fuel lines. Install the front lines into position, routing them between the engine and firewall. Start the threaded fitting of the line labeled 375A into the driver's side rear of the throttle body and tighten it using a 16mm wrench. Start the threaded fitting of the line labeled 313A onto the passenger side rear of the throttle body and tighten it using a 16mm wrench. Replace the bracket at the driver's side top of the transmission bell housing and tighten the stud bolt using a 15mm socket. Replace the bracket that was set off to the side onto the stud bolt and secure it using a 13mm socket. Next, we will install the rear section of the front fuel lines. Install the LinesToGo fuel line labeled 313B into position and secure it into the plastic retaining bracket. Next, install the line labeled 375B into position and secure it into the plastic retaining bracket. Connect the stainless steel braided hoses to the rear section of the front fuel lines, noting the LinesToGo color-coded connections. Tighten both connections using a 16mm and a 19mm wrench. To remove the rear section of fuel lines, the fuel tank will need to be removed. Using a flat blade screwdriver, loosen the two clamps at the fuel filler neck that secure the fuel filler hose and the vent hose. Remove both hoses from the fuel filler neck. Support the fuel tank and using a 15mm socket, remove the bolt securing the rear fuel tank strap. Use a 15mm socket to remove the nut securing the front fuel tank strap. Located on the outside of the driver's side frame, use a 15mm socket to remove the 4 nuts that secure the front fuel tank bracket. Remove the front fuel tank bracket from the vehicle. Start to lower the fuel tank, making sure to guide the fuel filler hose over the top of the frame. Once the tank is low enough to have access to the threaded fittings at the sending unit, disconnect them using a 16mm and a 19mm wrench. There will also be a vent line going to the sending unit that will need to be disconnected. Disconnect the sending unit electrical connector. Continue to lower the fuel tank and set it aside. With the fuel tank out of the way, use a flat blade screwdriver to remove the pressure and return lines from the plastic clips along the frame, and then remove both lines from the vehicle. To begin the installation of the rear LinesToGo fuel lines labeled FL400-D, start by installing the return line labeled 313 into position. Next, install the LinesToGo line labeled 375 into position and secure it into the plastic clips. Start the threaded fitting on the line labeled 313 into the union located on the front line and tighten the connection using a 16mm and a 19mm wrench. Next, start the male threaded fitting of the front pressure line into the fuel filter and tighten the threaded connections on both sides of the fuel filter using a 16mm and a 19mm wrench. At the rear of the vehicle, connect the stainless steel hoses to the lines, noting the LinesToGo color-coded connections. Tighten both connections using a 16mm and a 19mm wrench. Begin to raise the fuel tank back into position. Once the tank is high enough, connect the two stainless steel hoses onto the threaded connections on the fuel tank and tighten them using a 16mm and a 19mm wrench. You will also need to replace the vent hose onto the sending unit at this time. Reconnect the sending unit electrical connector. Continue to raise the fuel tank into position, making sure to route the filler neck over the frame. Install the front fuel tank bracket into position and using a 15mm socket, tighten the 4 bolts that secure the bracket to the frame. Tighten the front and rear fuel tank straps using a 15mm socket. Connect the filler neck tube and tighten the clamp using a flat blade screwdriver. Connect the vent hose at the top of the filler neck and tighten the clamp using a flat blade screwdriver. Reconnect the battery using a 5/16 of an inch wrench. Replace the intake air filter housing into position and tighten the wing nuts that secure it. Replace the 2 intake air tubes onto the air filter housing. This concludes the installation of fuel lines on a 94 GMC Sierra using LinesToGo part number FL399-F for the front and FL400-D for the rear. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions or would like to purchase the lines you saw today, please call us at 1-855-781-5992. Email us at info@linestogo.com or check out our website link below. And don't forget to take advantage of our free 2-day shipping. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button below, and we will see you on our next video.